All right, some text on the conversations of the law of diminishing returns. Sark trying to wear too many hats, and I think it's showing up with the performance this year for Texas. That's my opinion. It says, yeah, they ain't winning nothing if they can't run the ball. That's true. This is jack of all trades, master of none. That's kind of what we're talking about with Sark. You can be really good at a lot of things, but you can't try to do them all at one time, in my opinion, especially when you're competing against the best in your industry, in your field, which the SEC is. This says, guys, I know that NFL teams have general managers, did not realize that college teams do. Who's been the GM for Texas? Well, Brandon Harris is the labeled general manager. He has the title, and he was a former, but they've kind of promoted him from within. Whatever anybody thinks of, because Brandon Harris really cut his teeth on the recruiting trails and building relationships with high school kids and building the high school recruiting class. But Brandon Harris, who's a former quarterback at LSU, and Sark likes him a lot, he's never been a talent evaluator from like the NFL side of things. Not saying that he can't. Just saying, well, bring in somebody who's done that. That's what Oklahoma did. And they brought in Jim Nagy, who was a scout in the NFL for 20 years with the Seahawks and other teams, and then ran the Senior Bowl where I identified the best players in college football. That guy's got a background in identifying talent, and that's that person. You could have Brandon Harris as a co-GM and then this person to help with the portal side of things, right, that is helping you identify players in the portal. Because at the end of the day, Sark is the general manager. I mean, whereas at Oklahoma, they've separated that. And they give Oklahoma credit. They made that call. We wondered how that was going to work. Well, so far their roster is much better. I mean, the Jade Knott thing from Cal didn't work, but a lot of the portal players they brought in have hit, and they've built a nice defense behind that. And they went and got John Mateer, and they had a plan. And they weren't in the playoff last year. Now they are. So the goal is, if the mission is to make the playoff, well, how are you going to get back to the playoff next year, even with Arch Manning returning and a lot of good players? Well, I think what I'm seeing is the law of diminishing return of Sark's got too many hats right now. This says a lot has changed in college football since Sark was hired. And that's a great point. I mean, when Sark was hired, this wasn't the realm. And what does Sark say all the time? Evolve or die.
Yep.
Right? And
he's got to evolve. You got to practice what you preach there.
Yeah, and I've always said the Cowboys with Jerry Jones, they have a very insular way of doing things. It's the Joneses way, and they have a tight circle of people, and they're not going to listen to anybody from the outside, and it's been a problem for a long time. I mean, Sark he's got his guys that he came with, but it's not wrong to bring in outside voices and I'm not saying Sark won't do that. I just don't know. I just think that's the culprit right now, mainly, because when you talk about offensive line and running game and talent and this and that, those are all under the umbrella of what I'm talking about, that Sark is in control of the talent and the roster build. Sark is in control of the team, and he's in control of the offense. That's too many hats. That's too many hats, in my opinion. Okay, as for the college football playoff rankings.
Yes.
Okay, Texas is 17. That's fine. And again, it's not the...
Yeah, 3 losses. Like you said, we've been saying it.
There's really nothing to argue for there.
They'd be in a spot where Alabama is. You can make an argument where Notre Dame is, which I have a grievance about, if they were to only have lost 2 games at this point, being Ohio State and Georgia. That plain and simple. That's why they went back 7 spots.
Right, and they lost. The Florida game is what's anchoring them and bringing them down. If they were only those losses, even though it was by dominant fourth quarter and got whipped pretty good in the second half at Georgia, and a 1-score loss to Ohio State, they would still be in the top 10.
Correct.
And playing for big things. They're not. They lost to Florida. But the ones that are curious to me, I know Mac Rose is no longer the committee head and that whole thing at Waco. But first and foremost, Oregon. And I have a Big Ten blind spot. I got a chip on my shoulder with the Big Ten.
You do.
And I know number 1 and number 2 are both Big Ten teams, Ohio State and Indiana. But I also know that Oregon lost at home by one of those teams by 10 points. Okay? So Oregon lost to Indiana at home. But it feels to me the fact that they're ahead of Oklahoma, and it's based on the loss column because Oregon only has 1 loss and Oklahoma has 2. Well, I think that's garbage. Oregon should be behind Oklahoma. Oklahoma has road wins at Alabama, at Tennessee, home over Michigan, another Big Ten team. They lost a game in the rivalry game to Texas. Punt return really separated, made it a 2-score game, but they were, that was a competitive game, and then that's a rivalry game, and then they lost at home to Ole Miss, who's number 5 in the poll. Who has Oregon beaten? Not lost to. Mm-hmm. And how many losses? Who have they beaten? And I can tell you, before you go to look it up, the answer is nobody. The best teams they have beaten are 6-4 Minnesota and 6-4 Iowa.
Right.
On the road, and that is still considered their best win. Okay, well, the other teams that they've beaten that are Power 4 teams, not Montana State, are a combined 32-45 this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's who Oregon's beaten. 32-45. And the best wins are Iowa and Oregon. Iowa and Minnesota.
I mean, their best win in reality, even though their record doesn't say it, would be at Penn State still.
They're 4-6.
Sure. The coach got just hired by Virginia Tech.
And last night I heard Hunter Yurachek say, yeah, we're still giving them credit for that win as a power win. What? They're 4-6 this year. I don't care what you thought they were going to do. They're 4-6. That's not a power win for Oregon. So again, I ask, who has Oregon beaten? And the Iowa win was by an eyelash, which is a great comeback, Dante Moore, but Iowa's lost to Iowa State. Iowa's got 4 losses. So if that's your best win, you don't have a win. Again, I mean, I'll give you the Iowa one. That's great. But who has Oregon beaten? Yes, they're a one-loss team to number 2 in the country, but Oklahoma has 2 losses to teams who are ranked in your poll. Texas last week was ranked number 10 in your same ranking, and you've lost to number 5 in your ranking. But they've beaten, this is the important part, they've beaten teams that are really, really good, like Alabama on the road, like Tennessee on the road. They've beaten these teams. They beat Michigan, who you guys still will have ranked pretty highly here. This is that's wrong. I mean, the strength of schedule metric was exactly for this. We're not going to look at just win-loss record. We're going to look at quality of wins, and you can't have Penn State included as a quality win.
Okay. My grievance is more on a team a couple back is Notre Dame at 9.
Well, that's the same thing.
I would say, if you have that theory, then why would Notre Dame be at 9?
They're number 2 on my hit
and Alabama at 10.
Agreed. We can't
Oregon
can't defend Oregon.
Oregon plays against 15 USC this weekend at home, and that'll shake it out. If they lose that game, they will not be in the playoffs. They don't, even at 10-2.
Okay. Well, I'm just
in my opinion, I don't think that'll happen.
But what I'm looking at is why are they ahead of Oklahoma right now? That's what I'm at.
Because there's a 1 behind them, and number 1 happens to be the number 2 team in the country. That's what I think it is. I agree with your theory of what's their best win.
Well, that's garbage.
At Iowa, sure.
Notre Dame ahead of Alabama. Okay. All right, let's get going. There's one. Can I just tell you this?
That one I have the biggest grievance with.
Well, you should. I mean, I started with Oregon, but it doesn't mean it's the biggest. I just don't. I don't see. I mean, look, Oregon. Their backup quarterback, Austin Novosad. That family. I'm good friends with their family. I root for Oregon. I'm just going on what the committee said their criteria was going to be, and what I'm judging after the 3rd ranking. There's no way that Oregon should be ahead of Oklahoma based on accomplishment, because they don't have any. Versus the resume of Oklahoma, my opinion.
Sure.
But Notre Dame is ahead of Alabama. Wins over currently ranked AP top 25 teams. Alabama has 4. Oregon has 0, by the way. But Notre Dame, let me give you Notre Dame's resume. 1-2 in ranked matchups. 2-0 against group of 5 teams. 7-0 against Power 4 teams with a combined record of 8-48. And they won't play in a conference championship game. Yet they're ahead of Alabama, who, yes, just lost at home to the number 8 team in your poll by 2 points. And they lost to Florida State early, and that's the one that's anchoring them, kind of like the Florida loss for Texas. But that was game 1 of the year. New offensive coordinator, a bunch of new players at Florida State. Bad game for Alabama. But there's only one team in the country, as we sit here on November the 18th or 19th, that has 4 wins over ranked teams in this year. Not last year, this year. They have 4 wins, Alabama, over ranked teams, including Georgia, who's number 4 in the country.
Yeah.
And they're behind, again, the conversation here is about win-loss record versus accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be about, because Alabama and Notre Dame have the same number of losses. And hell, Notre Dame should be behind Miami, who beat them in a head-to-head matchup week 1. So if you're going to hold the week 1 matchup against Alabama, you're not going to hold it against Notre Dame?
I think that strength of schedule we're seeing is starting to become more of a who did you lose to, and I agree. I mean, the only reason Oregon, you can make an argument there that they are 7 is because they only have 1 loss, and it was because it's to the number 2 team in the country. But it was at their crib, and it was 2 scores. So if you would have it the way you'd think it should be, it would be just going off this. Oklahoma, they beat Alabama head on. We put them at 7.
Yep.
Alabama goes up to 8 ahead of Notre Dame and Oregon.
Yep.
Then would you go Oregon, Notre Dame at 9 and 10?
Yep.
I don't really have a grievance with that.
Yep.
I think because when it comes to Oklahoma's schedule, they have a lot of ranked wins. Even start off the season against Michigan there.
Take what you just said.
And all the SEC wins they have.
Why would who you've lost to matter?
Right. No.
I mean, why would that ever even realistically matter?
That should be one of the points in the back half of the points.
That's down the list of priorities.
Number
here.
one should be your wins. I agree.
Your quality of victories, accomplishment.
Right.
Notre Dame has very little.
They do.
As far as that goes.
The best win would be USC at this point.
I mean, a close loss at home to Texas A&M is not an accomplishment. It's a loss.
And
yeah,
I get it.
Competitive.
I get it. I'm rooting for C.J. Carr and their quarterback, and they have gotten better. But their competition has got much lesser.
Alabama,
plain and simple.
Based on accomplishment, has 4 wins over ranked teams.
Yep.
Yes, they have 2 losses to 2 good football teams. Well, Florida State turned out to be not very good, so they got to own that. But the other one was to a team who's on the rise, and Oklahoma, let's not forget, played a good chunk of the year without their quarterback here. Their starting quarterback, and when he came back, it was too early, and he was trying to rush it. We saw with the healthy John Mateer off a bye week, and I know their offense didn't do much in that game, but that was an impressive performance at Alabama. Nobody wins at Alabama. Oklahoma did, and they're going to be behind Oregon.
Yeah.
Who's done, again, I like Oregon. They've done nothing this year. They have nothing on the accomplishment category except for a win in the rain at Iowa.
Yeah, I have no grievance with that. I'm with you on that for what it would be.
All right,
We're
so
seeing
that's
my
my bones to pick with the.
Notre Dame is the sore thumb. Oregon, your point's totally on. I think the fact they have 1 loss is probably a little bit too much credit to them. Now they get a chance to beat a team 15, and then they also play at Washington, who's not the worst. They've been in and out of the rankings. But yeah, I agree. I mean, you gotta give Oklahoma credit. They have a lot of great wins. Alabama, I mean, you got to put Oklahoma ahead of Alabama. They just went in Tuscaloosa, but they also have a lot of great wins.
I just, again, I'm just judging what they said in July about how they're going to do this, and they're not doing that.
Right.
At least in this ranking, we'll see what it looks like when it's all said and done, and all the games
no
are
problem.
played.
1 through 6. I mean, if you want to switch out,
No,
I've always thought A&M could be 2.
But there really wasn't going to be a problem 1 to 6. That's pretty clear. The question becomes, based on what you said, the rules of the game were going to be 7 to 12. That ain't right.
Right.
And it's it's contradictory to what you said it was going to be. And that's why we said this at the very beginning before the first rankings came out. Remember what the change was: the schedule metric, accomplishment, strength of wins versus just losses in the loss column. Well, I'm not seeing that show up in the results. Maybe it'll get there and it'll all work itself out. Typically does, but I leak on this Wednesday. That's bogus.